What on earth did we just witness? Because whatever went down in Philadelphia on the 4th of July, it wasn't a football match. Not really. It was 90 minutes of pushing and swinging and cheap shots. French players getting chopped down off the ball, elbows landing on ribs. A World Cup favorite getting steamrolled again and again, like it was a parking lot scrap instead of a round of 16 World Cup tie. It was painful to sit through, and standing right in the center of it, whistle in his pocket, one man watched every second of it happen and did nothing about it. France beat Paraguay 1-0. They're through to the quarterfinals. But almost nobody left that stadium talking about the scoreline, because the real headline was the mess on the pitch and the referee who was there to stop it and simply chose not to. He was so poor that L'Équipe, the French paper famous for tearing footballers apart, gave him its lowest, rarest possible mark, a 1 out of 10. Their whole verdict fit in 4 words. He got nearly everything wrong. On paper, this was a round of 16 clash. A World Cup favorite up against a scrappy South American side that had already sent Germany packing on penalties. In reality, it played out closer to a brawl with a whistle occasionally going off somewhere in the background. And the man holding that whistle spent 90 minutes acting like a spectator who'd wandered onto the field by mistake. His name is Ilgiz Tantashev. He's from Uzbekistan. He's been a FIFA-listed official for 13 years, meaning he's had 13 years to figure out what a yellow card is actually for. And, on Saturday, in front of the whole watching world, he decided he'd rather not reach for one, not for the team that needed it most. Let me give you the single number that tells this whole story. Paraguay committed somewhere between 12 and 13 fouls, several of them the kind that make you wince, plus a stack of off-the-ball shoves the referee didn't even bother to whistle for. The number of yellow cards they picked up across the full 90 minutes was 0. Hold that number in your head, because here's where it flips from sloppy into something almost deliberate. France picked up 3 bookings. Manu Kone, Bradley Bacola, and Michael Olise were all cautioned. So it's not that Tantashev left his cards in the tunnel. He had them. He knew exactly where they were. He simply saved them for the team on the receiving end of the beating. Read that back slowly. The side throwing elbows walked away completely clean. The side getting elbowed picked up 3 yellows. That's not weak officiating. That's officiating turned upside down. Let's actually run through what he let slide, because dark arts is a polite way of putting it, and this deserves specifics. Andres Cubas went straight through Adrien Rabiot with a challenge that had nothing to do with the ball. Nothing at all. Juan José Cáceres kicked out at Kylian Mbappe after losing the ball, a petty little swipe. Matias Galarza jammed his hand straight into Jules Koundé's face. Then later that same afternoon, threw an arm into Mbappe while he was running clean at goal. And in maybe the ugliest moment of the day, Gabriel Avalos dropped an elbow into the stomach of Désiré Doué while Paraguay were chasing the game. An elbow to the ribs on a World Cup stage, and the referee's response every time was identical. A shrug, play on, nothing. Even Galarza's gamesmanship got rewarded, because when Olise tugged his shirt, Galarza threw himself to the ground to try and win a card. And it worked. The man play-acting got the free kick. The victim got the yellow. Tantashev bought it every single time, from one side, and never once from the other. The pundits didn't soften it. Joe Hart, the former England keeper watching from the BBC studio, called Paraguay's players an absolute disgrace and said if they were on his team, he'd be pulling them off the pitch himself. Micah Richards called it embarrassing to watch and pointed out the maddening part, that Paraguay were genuinely a strong defensive side and didn't need any of it. And Thomas Hitzelsberger, the former Germany midfielder, went furthest of all, saying that as a neutral, you could have no respect for them, that it went past disgraceful into something worse. When 3 separate professionals in a studio are digging for stronger and stronger words to describe how ugly a match was, you know it wasn't just spicy. It was rotten. Now let's take this seriously for a second, because this channel doesn't do lazy outrage, and there's a fair counterpoint here. Paraguay didn't turn up to entertain anyone. They came into this game with a plan, and the plan was simple. Sit deep, load the box with 5 defenders, frustrate the favorites, drag it toward extra time and penalties, and try to repeat the miracle they'd pulled off against Germany. And for long stretches, it nearly worked. It took France more than 20 minutes just to get a shot away. France didn't hit the target until the 55th minute. Orlando Gil, Paraguay's keeper and their hero against Germany made save after save and pulled off a genuinely brilliant double stop in stoppage time to deny Mbappe again. Defensively, they were organized, disciplined, hard to break down. If they'd done all of that and left the elbows at home, they'd have walked away with their dignity intact. The tragedy of Paraguay is that they were good enough to not need the fouling, and they did it anyway. But here's the thing, even allowing for all of that, even allowing that every team gets to play its own way, none of it lets the man in the middle off the hook. A referee's entire job is to draw a line and hold it. Compare it to the Canada versus Morocco match earlier that same day, where Michael Oliver showed 6 yellow cards before halftime, stamped his authority on the game early, and watched the whole thing calm down and behave in the second half. That's what control looks like? Tantashev did the exact opposite. He let the temperature climb, let the fouls pile up, let the players sense there'd be no consequences. And by the end, there were scuffles, shouting from the bench, and Gustavo Velasquez trying to confront France's players after the final whistle. A match turns into that because a referee lets it turn into that. And here's a detail that should bother you even more. The official foul count came out at 13 for Paraguay and 11 for France, which almost makes it sound like a fair, evenly matched physical battle. It wasn't. That number is a lie by omission, because the referee missed a mountain of Paraguay's fouls completely. The sly little trips and off-the-ball shoves that never made it onto the sheet at all. So the real gap was far bigger than 2, and even on the fouls he did spot, somehow only one team ever paid for them. The stats sheet flattered him. Watching the actual game buried him, and the moment that decided the match tells you everything about him too. In the second half, substitute Désiré Doué picked up the ball, beat one man, beat a second, and was chopped down inside the box by Diego Gomez. A clear penalty. Tantashev waved it away, gave nothing. It took VAR to drag him over to the monitor and basically make the call for him. Then, even after he'd finally pointed to the spot, Paraguay's players crowded around him to stall, while Velasquez scuffed up the penalty mark with his boot. Tantashev had to rebuild the spot himself before Mbappe could even step up. Mbappe sent the keeper the wrong way, and France had their winner. France went through on a penalty their own referee didn't want to award. That penalty was Mbappe's 7th goal of the tournament, pulling him level with Lionel Messi in the race for the Golden Boot, and taking him to 19 goals in 19 World Cup appearances, now second on the all-time World Cup scoring list. And, in a way, it summed up his whole day, because Mbappe got kicked, elbowed, hacked at, and provoked from the first minute, and mostly just brushed it off. His line afterwards said it all. He said Paraguay thought France would show up in tuxedos, and that France knows how to play dirty too. Deschamps, for his part, refused to point fingers, said there'd been insults flying from the other bench, and admitted he'd told his 2 biggest players to physically shield Mbappe at the end because he was worried they'd take him out. Oh, and all of this happened inside a furnace. Kickoff temperature was recorded at 101 degrees, making it one of the hottest World Cup matches ever played. Not far off the all-time record of 109 degrees from Ireland versus Mexico back in 1994. So while the referee stood there waving away elbows, the players were also slowly roasting. Nobody involved in this game had a good time, except maybe the VAR operator, who at least got to feel useful. France move on to face Morocco in the quarterfinal. Tantashev goes nowhere, because FIFA suspended him almost immediately, which is about as close to an admission as you'll ever get from that organization that yes, it really was as bad as you thought. Ever seen a referee cost himself his job this fast? Drop your worst ever refereeing call down in the comments and stick around for the quarterfinals.